All right. Hello and welcome back to Borderline FPL, the podcast that constantly crosses the line between FPL advice and Premier League banter. My name is Chris.
And for the first time in about a month, y'all, my name is Ben.
Hey,
I'm so
he's
happy.
back. He's back.
So happy to be back. I was gone for a long time for work-related events, but I'm finally back at home. My job has concluded there. So I'm so happy to be back and back to giving you guys the best Arsenal propaganda on YouTube. So very, very happy to be back. Very happy to be back.
Well, yeah, we're excited to have you back, Ben. We've tried to fill for you a couple of times. I made a couple of solo videos, and we obviously had James, which was really awesome to come on the pod, and then we had Jake and Willie. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. We took a week off last week. I had a bunch of family stuff going on and work transition and stuff, so couldn't get a recording out. But we are back this week. That being said, you guys literally, by the time this is released, will have maybe 10 hours before deadline to make your decisions.
Literally. Yeah, no, we're recording this on Friday.
Yeah, we're recording on Friday because it's the only time we had available to record games for the double game week of 28 just finished yesterday on Thursday. So we're trying to get this out to you guys, answer some questions, and get into it before you guys have to make those transfers. So with that being said, guys, we have a couple of topics that we're going to kind of cover. I actually tweeted it out. Those topics are going to be best Arsenal and Spurs triple up for FPL, the Chelsea sanctions that we'll get into a good bit that have been kind of put onto them because of Roman Abramovich, their owner. And then is FPL Twitter overhyping Doherty, or is he a good pick? And then for those of us who brought in Reece James last week, although he was nice in his one game, what to do with Reece James with his injury. So those are going to be kind of the main topics of the pod. We obviously will cover, a lot of the results that went by. But with that being said, Ben, let's start it off like we always do. I'm going to bring up the table.
Oh, it's been so long since we've started looking at the table, and it is looking, wow, that is so hot.
It's looking pretty nice.
That is so hot.
Nice, I can't lie.
Especially those games played. I know. And the thing is, I don't want to say the games played because I'd rather points on the board than games in hand, as we saw earlier this year when the roles were reversed. Actually, in Manchester United were slightly behind us by like a point two, but they had like 2 games in hand and they were against mid to lower table sides. And they're like, we have games in hand, and they lost one and drew one. So points on the board always over games in hand, especially considering some of those games in hand that we have are against the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, and United, and Spurs as well.
Yep.
But for the time being, we're in a healthy spot with our recent form. We being Arsenal, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if people are watching this and still don't know that we're both Arsenal fans, then I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, points in hand over or I guess points on the board over games in hand. But it is nice to see that we have both points on the board and games in hand at the moment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I would not, I'll get bold here. We are not the most informed team in the league right now, in my opinion.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that.
I wouldn't say that. I think we're doing really well, but I don't think we are although we are, over the last 10 games, we have accumulated the most points tied with Man City of any team in Europe.
Yep.
But
we're tied with Man City on 25 points.
Yeah, 25 with them. But we have a better goal differential in that span, so we're technically.
We also need to be realistic about our opponents in those last 10 games. But
yeah, I mean, there were some tough ones. Wolves twice, home and away within a 9-day period. That's not easy. Go ask anyone else in the league. Wolves is not an easy opponent, specifically having to come back down at halftime to them like we did.
Right.
But we weren't playing City and Pool and Chelsea every week, right? So there's still a lot that we will have to find out about this team when we go take on. We have to go to Stamford Bridge, and obviously in 5 days we play Liverpool at home. So
I'm really excited for that game. I'm just I really think we can get something out of it at the very least.
I think at home. I think because it's at home, I like our odds better. Arteta has said since day one he wants to turn the Emirates into a fortress. And
which I mean we've gotten a lot.
Kind of
but
like
all right, let's cut the Arsenal talk. I know we want to talk about it a lot, but let's get into the rest of the teams. City still holding on up top, 6 points ahead of Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool still have a game in hand, so if they win that game, they're only 3 points behind. The title race is definitely on at this point. I know Liverpool and City actually have to play each other still, so that could
They
be a
do.
huge
So no,
swing.
if they win their game in hand and then they go beat Man City, welcome to the show and good luck holding on to your seats. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then, Chelsea is just, what are they? They're
Oh,
8 points
Lord.
ahead of us, and we have 2 games in hand. We win
We
both
have
those
2 games
games.
in hand, and we play them. If we were to win our games in hand and beat Chelsea, we would technically jump them.
Yep. Also, I don't know how much weight this has or anything, but I've seen something about how, their sanctions may result in a point deduction. I highly doubt that.
I doubt that. I've heard rumors of a 9-point deduction for them because of the sanctions and because of things.
Yeah.
I think that is more paper talk than the other more concrete claims that I've heard going against them.
Well, let's get into that just because it's a segue already.
Yeah.
So with Chelsea, obviously we know that Roman Abramovich, the owner, who was actually trying to sell recently, and then this week, these sanctions go into place on Roman Abramovich, basically stating that he is no longer allowed to make any money in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So basically, kind of just to give specific examples.
I have a whole list of the can and can'ts from them.
Go ahead then.
So what they can do, what Chelsea is still allowed to do right now.
Yep.
They can continue to play matches.
Mm-hmm.
They can receive broadcast money. So those TV deals, they'll still receive money from that. And they can allow season ticket holders to attend games. Yep. I also, to my knowledge, and this isn't on my list, but if you had bought a game for Chelsea I think they play Saturday, correct? Maybe they play Saturday or Sunday. Right. Say you bought a ticket for that game this week, and you bought that before these sanctions came in earlier this week, you can still use that ticket. What they cannot do, they cannot buy new players. They cannot agree to new contracts. They cannot sell tickets for games. So if you did not buy a ticket to a game in the future already, you cannot now go buy that, basically. So that's why I say if you bought one before these sanctions, like this weekend or something, use it. But only season ticket holders really have those consistent tickets. So their home crowds will be much smaller. They cannot sell club shop merchandise. In fact, I know sponsors are immediately requesting to be off of their shirts.
I know 3 has already requested to be off.
The three is the company that's at the front of Chelsea's jersey, for those who don't know. Not 3 clubs, but 3 is literally the name of the sponsor. And they cannot sell the club unless Abramovich allows the UK government to take control of the process, where he will receive no money for the sale, which he will not do because he is not going to do that, quite simply. So they're in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. And for me, Chelsea, obviously, they won everything this past year. So if you're sitting at home and you think that it's like a good thing that we're seeing a huge club like this capitulate and fall and kind of go into the mud, then you're just like me, bro, and I love it. Like, this is awesome.
I knew that was coming.
This could not have happened to a more deserving club.
My God.
Like, I love it. I'm loving this.
This is my question, and you may or may not know the answer to this. So with what you said, saying Roman Abramovich cannot sell the club unless he lets the UK kind of take control over that selling process, which he won't do. Yes. So at any point in time, are these sanctions going to be lifted in the future, and then he'll be able to sell the club? So he just has to like wait them out, or how does that work? Are these sanctions never?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he wants.
Right.
Obviously, I think he's kind of waiting for, the smoke and the fire to die down. Obviously, with all the events going on between Russia and the Ukraine, and
right.
Obviously, we don't need to go into that. Everyone knows what's going on. It's a terrible tragedy. I don't think they will.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's too connected politically with Russia for the UK to just eventually be like, okay, it's been long enough. You're cool again. Like, go ahead and sell your club. I think that he would love for it to die down, obviously, so he could sell his club and get out of there and take a couple $1 billion and go home. I don't see that ever happening. I think that this is basically going to get to the point of, we're going to take the club from you, or you're going to sell and you're not going to get the money from it, or you'll work out a plea deal where you get some of the money for it, but you can only use it for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very heavily politically influenced at this point. Obviously, I mean, it is obviously politically influenced. I don't see a point where he gets to sell the club and just pocket the money in the near future, at least.
Yeah, we'll see how
quite honestly, probably in the far future.
Yeah.
In the far future. And he loves the club a lot. So I don't know how long he would make them suffer of, you can't buy players, you can't sell players, you can't, because I think that at this point too, They can't sign players to new contracts as well, which is really important because they have a lot of players that are out of contract. I know it had already been reported that Christensen was going to Barcelona. That's never a doubt anymore. Rudiger is the huge name for them. That was out of contract in the summer.
Yep.
I think Conte's contract is starting to wind down.
As P.
And I think as P is going to be out. I think that there's also going to be a lot of bigger name players, ergo your Lukaku's, your Havertz, your Mounts, that are eventually going to get a grip on the situation and recognize that this club cannot stay where they were and they are not going to want to go down with the ship.
Well, so here's my question really to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's say a Lukaku, you know, they want to leave the club. Okay.
Yeah.
But Chelsea can't make any money from the sale of the player and he's still technically in contract. So does that player just have to rot at the club? He has no choice.
If he's on contract, unless I'm, and this is more NBA thinking, unless you buy your own contract out, you can't. But the thing is, Chelsea can sell those players. They can. But they can't use the money to go buy new ones or for certain things that the government wouldn't allow. So it's like
they can make the money off the sale of the players. They just can't use that money.
Players are now their biggest asset. They just can't use that money kind of how they would exclusively like to right now. Like their club credit cards are frozen. Like everything is frozen. They do not have money. The Athletic reported today they couldn't buy gas on a team credit card.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that's the Athletic, which is one of, in my opinion, the most reliable sources out there. So you can sell their players. If someone came in with a £50 million bid for Lukaku, they could sell that and take the $50 million. They can't then repurpose it. That money would then just continue to be frozen like all their other assets are.
Yeah.
It would just fall into the pile of frozen money that the government at this point is dictating what is allowed to be used.
Then I guess
so. Yes, they can sell their players, but no, they can't do anything with it. They can't like sell Lukaku for $60 million and then go around and buy someone for $40. Right. So it's difficult, and I think it's going to lead to an exodus at Chelsea Football Club of players wanting to leave the club personally.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Okay, we'll move on from that. I think we covered that enough. But yeah, that's unfortunate, to be honest. Like jokes aside, it's unfortunate for Chelsea fans and Chelsea itself to be wrapped up in this because of their owner, basically.
Yeah, there's nothing that the players did,
right,
or that Tuchel did, or that the fans did.
Right.
So I do feel for them because obviously this is difficult and and obviously I understand the UK government's position on it too. You have to stop Abramovich from basically free reign of what he do at this point. But you do have to feel the players and the coaches and everything who got wrapped up into this.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on with the rest of the table, Ben. The top, I would say the European spaces are really interesting to me. I think Villa, on their current form, still have a decent chance of getting a European spot. I think Stevie G has absolutely transformed the way that they're going at the moment. Mm-hmm. Specifically their last 3 games, obviously. But West Ham kind of in, I feel like they're regressing to the mean a little bit. And who would you say, if you're honest, who do you think is our biggest threat to top 4, United or Spurs?
I think it's Spurs. I don't like saying that because obviously I hate them.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Manchester United this season, and I know we lost to them, but they rely so much on individual moments of brilliance to save them in games.
Yeah. And
more often than not, that will fail you. There doesn't seem to be a system. There doesn't seem to be a function. And although at Tottenham, that system is so far from perfect under Conte, and we've seen it capitulate week after week. I mean, you can look at their form. Some of those losses in there should not have been losses. Those are games they would have chalked up to be wins earlier in the season. But they have an idea of what they want to do, a structure and a system that they want to play. And under Conte, he's a terrific manager. You would back him to get it to work more often than not. So I think Spurs, I think that this weekend's game, and also with the games in hand that they have, obviously literally this weekend they play United, right? So that's a massive game.
Yeah.
And it's at Manchester United as well, which is a tough place for any team to go. I'd still say Spurs. In terms of West Ham regressing to the mean, I think that a lot of that is they're in Europe right now, and they don't have a squad big enough to be in Europe right now or deep enough to be in Europe right now, and they're trying to give 100% into 2 places. They could be very much out of Europe next week. They lost, for those that don't know, they lost their first leg to Sevilla, who are a terrific team in Spain, 1-0. The second leg is
their Europa League team,
Europa
bro.
League. Yeah, Europa League. They're a good team, bro. They're a good team. They won Europa League last year, or not last year. They've won Europa League many a time. So they have a lot of European experience at that club, but I think that West Ham's squad isn't deep enough to be in two important conversations at once. And so I think that if they do fall out of Europa League, we'll see a lot more strength from them in the Premier League. But if they remain in Europa League and defeat Sevilla, then I think the Premier League's going to get complicated for them.
Yep. Agreed. All right, let's take a look at kind of the bottom of the table.
Shout out Newcastle. Got to shout out Newcastle off the jump.
Yeah, well, I mean, Eddie Howe and their signings have been huge for them.
It's been insane.
Like 4 wins out of their last 5 is quite. None of us expected this. None of us.
No, if you took away the logos and told me, and you just showed me that form and told me to guess the team, Newcastle would never have been the team I would have guessed.
Yeah.
It's insane the job they've done and the signings, and Chris Wood finally scoring his first goal this past week. And
Ryan Fraser has been brilliant for them recently, really finding his form under Eddie Howe again, which is weird because I think a lot of people had concern about that because for those who don't know, Eddie Howe was his manager at Bournemouth, but towards the end of his tenure on his contract at Bournemouth, Fraser basically refused to play. And that was when Bournemouth were in a relegation battle. So there was some bad blood between Howe and Fraser, but it seems like they worked things out and everything's okay, which is good.
Yeah.
I guess they just had to kind of bury that hatchet and move on with their lives. But yeah, Fraser's finding form. They're doing this without St. Max recently. He's been out injured. And
once he's back, good
Lord. the Arsenal lad, Joe Willock, has contributed to a couple goals as well. Mm-hmm. They're looking good. They're looking strong. They're looking like they're gonna make it out. Like
in terms of not looking like they're gonna make it out, here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is more likely to get relegated, Leeds or Everton? Because those are 2 big name clubs. If you were to predict one right now to get relegated by the end of the season, say Burnley go on a crazy win streak, right?
Yeah.
And one of Everton and Leeds is gonna go down.
Leeds.
Which one do you think is more likely? For real?
Yeah. I think jokes aside on how bad I think Frank Lampard is as a manager, I think Everton have the better quality team. I think Leeds United under Jesse Marsh do not look impressive to me. I mean, not that they were doing anything under Bielsa at all, but it seems like they've just like lost their identity almost. And they're really poor defensively. I think Everton has a better defense, even though it's not that much better of a defense. I think they have a better defense. I think they have better quality in attack. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin started for the first game in like 3 or 4 for them last week, even though they got smacked up by Spurs. I think having a front 3 back of DCL, Richarlison, Gray, or I mean they've been playing Anthony Gordon off the right a good bit.
He's been class lately, honestly.
Yeah. So I just think Everton have the better quality than Leeds to make it out of the mud. But I do think it's a really, really close call. I mean, if you just look at that Leeds form,
would you say Burnley? Would you put Burnley to get relegated before both of them?
No,
I agree. I back
because, like I said, and they showed it a few games ago. I mean, their last 2 haven't been great, but they can keep a clean sheet against anyone.
They beat Spurs.
Yeah, they can keep a clean sheet against anyone. That's genuinely true.
And then literally
any team in the country, they can keep a clean sheet.
They can rob a goal off a corner. They can rob a goal.
And I wouldn't say that about any of the other teams in the relegation battle. Like Everton, no. Leeds, no, absolutely not.
Watford, Lord, no, and Norwich, good God, no.
Yeah. So I think Burnley just slightly make it out.
Yeah.
If they can keep Cornet healthy and Weghorst starts to convert on some of his chances.
Back. Yeah, he's a good player.
I think they can make it out the mud. But Leeds and Everton both a worry for sure. I think you got to feel bad for Van de Beek, right? Because he literally turned down a move to Newcastle because he said he didn't want to be involved in a relegation battle.
Now they are. Now
he's at Everton
9 points
and
above him.
Very,
and they're 9 points above him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, at least he won't get relegated. He'll get called back to Man United. He's been good for Everton since joining. Specifically, I think that FA Cup game he played in, he was terrific.
Yeah.
They're still in the FA Cup, by the way, which is crazy. Considering some of the big names that have already dropped out of it.
Yep.
But Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna come down. I think Norwich are done. I think Watford are gonna be done. I think it's gonna come down to one of those three: Burnley, Everton, Leeds, and that's gonna be.
I don't disagree with you. I do not.
It's gonna be.
All
It's
right,
gonna
let's
be
take a look at
insane,
some of these
honestly.
double game week games. I don't know if we're gonna go through all of them because that would
We don't
take
have
forever.
to go through all of them because
But
there's
I do
a ton,
want to.
and we
I
still
do
have
want
to
to go
talk.
through
Yeah.
like the main talking points ones for at least a fantasy perspective as we switch gears into kind of like a fantasy mode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's take a look at the Villa 4-0. I mean, Villa just in terms of fantasy production, this double game week were absolutely immense. If you had
Mm-hmm.
any of Ings, Coutinho, Matty Cash, or really any Aston Villa defensive asset other than Luka Dean, you're
Yeah.
swimming in points because
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but specifically this double game week, Matty Cash finished on 29 points. That is tied for second highest point return in a game week for FPL ever.
Wow.
The highest being 30. So
Wow. So
Matty
he's a
Cash
bonus point away.
returned
Yeah.
29 points.
Yeah.
which
He's
is
literally a bonus point away from
unreal.
setting a literal record. That's
Yeah.
insane.
I think it's very clear to me now. I mean, I think the ship has kind of sailed because Villa's fixtures are getting a bit tougher. So
They're
I don't
gonna
know.
get really tough soon.
I
but
don't
yeah.
know if like it's okay to maybe hold them, but you wouldn't be bringing in any assets for them recently. But
Mhm.
Ings over Watkins was a huge call. If anybody went Ings over Watkins, that is absolutely insane because Danny Ings finished on like I think he finished on what was it 30 points this week?
It was something insane because he scored. He
Or
scored
not
and had
not
two
30,
assists
sorry.
in
It
this
was
game.
20. He finished on 20
It was something
points.
crazy. He scored and had two assists, and I mean, he's the man for that. They paid big money
Yeah,
for him.
and
And
scored had 2 assists in this game, and then if we scroll down to the Leeds game,
This
he
one,
had an assist as well.
an assist. Yeah,
So yeah, he finished on 20 points in the game week, which was 14 points more than Watkins finished on, which was just 6.
a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So yeah, what are your thoughts
That's
on Villa? What are
three.
your thoughts on kind of Villa assets and Gerrard in general?
I mean, the job that Gerard's done, I think, is terrific. I think, quite honestly, Villa fans aren't going to like this. I think that he is making a very strong resume to take over when Klopp leaves in 2024.
Oh, absolutely. That was his
I've thought that the Liverpool are letting Aston Villa be the guinea pig, and can Gerrard really coach outside of Scotland, and can he do it in the Premier League?
Yep.
Because he was doing it at Rangers and they had incredible work and success, but in Europe he wasn't really getting it done in Europe against bigger teams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, he has his Villa job. I think they're keeping a close eye on him. Klopp has pretty much said 2024 he's done. So I think he's making a strong resume for that Liverpool job when it does open up.
If you go back and watch,
they had 3 clean sheets in a row.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go on. Sorry. No, I was saying they have 3 clean sheets in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of agree with your point of the ship might have sailed because they're about to go into a tough stretch.
Yeah. Well, if you go back and
that,
watch the pod that we did when Gerrard first got appointed, you and I both said, hey, like Villa fans, you should be excited because he wants this Liverpool job. And if he's going to get this Liverpool job, he has to do a really good job at Villa. You know, end of story. If he comes to Villa and flops, there's going to be no interest from Liverpool.
He'll get fired, he'll get sacked, and he won't get a Liverpool look.
Right.
No, he won't. Liverpool will look elsewhere.
Yeah, so Villa, huge. I think, you know, some people free hitted this week on game week 28. A lot of people were wild carding this week. I think if you brought in Coutinho, he looks really, really good for his value. You know, that being said, he seems to pretty much only be doing it against kind of bad
lower
teams.
tier clubs. Yeah.
So let's see if he can do it against some better teams as they run into a couple of difficult ones in the near future. But I think Coutinho is a good asset. I still have Jacob Ramsey, and it seems as if, you know, I was kind of excited about that pick because he's really cheap. When I bought him, he was like 4.6. I think he's like 4.8 mil now, and he was getting forward a good bit. But now since Coutinho's arrival, it seems that he's playing a little bit further back. He's trying to like carry the ball forward, lay it off to Coutinho and Ings and Watkins to carry through. Yeah. But still good value for 4.8. I think probably the best cheap midfielder in the game right now is other than him is Anthony Gordon. If he continues to get starts at Everton, they do have a double game week this week in 29. He's 4.5, and he's playing right wing for Everton. Has been recently.
He plays on the wing, but he also sometimes plays as like an 8 in midfield. Yeah. So he might not be the best shout, but it might be worth a punt. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on if Damari Gray is going to replace him, how they're going to line up once Damari Gray's back.
I feel like Gray will, just because of where Everton are on the table, and they're going to want their best players playing their best positions.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but you could also argue that Anthony Gordon's been one of their best players over the last 5 games. So
yeah, so I'm sure they might work a way to get both of them on the field. I also think for Villa, Callum Chambers isn't a bad shout. The former Arsenal man scored a banger. Alexander-Arnold, he's been really, really strong since joining Villa, which makes me happy to see. But
yeah,
it looks like the Villa fans love him. The manager's starting to really grow to him. I think he's going to be getting a lot of starts.
Yeah, he had a really, really good assist for Coutinho, or actually, I guess it was assisting the assister. But in that first game where he played that outside
where
the
he
foot
looped
chip
one over, and then they squared it,
really,
and then he had
really
a banger this game, and he can play as a DM as well, which is interesting because he's listed as a defender, obviously, but he played as a DM for Fulham on loan about 2 seasons ago, and it looks like they might be deploying him there a little bit too.
Yep. All right, let's move on from that. I'm going to touch on this really quick just because Leicester assets are going to be, important because they do have a game in blank game week 30, and they do have the most fixtures out of any other team to be rescheduled at this point. So they have 4 games still to be rescheduled. Leicester have 3. Everton have 4, I think, if I'm correct. I'll pull up the tweet later on. But they play in game week 30. Vardy is going to be out against Arsenal this weekend. It has been announced, so expect one of Daka or Iheanacho to start up front for them. Barnes has been getting some good minutes recently, and Maddison is returning from injury. He got a slight knock. So keep an eye on that. I think the best assets for Leicester are probably Harvey Barnes or James Maddison. And then maybe you could consider a defender. I think their defense is going to get shaken up a lot. Marty has been starting a lot for them, but their main man, the young boy, is coming back. What's his name? Remind me.
Wesley Fofana. He was the partner of Saliba at Saint Etienne.
Yeah, so he'll be coming back. So I don't think Amarty keeps his place once he comes back. I think he's set to return in game week 31, maybe 32.
I think they're going to ease him.
They will ease him in. They will ease him in.
But once he's ready, understand that he is the starting center back of this team. He's the best center back they have.
Luke Thomas is a decent shout in defense. 4.3 million. He's been starting pretty consistently at left back for them.
Scored against Manchester United last year.
Yeah, so I think that's a decent shout. And then obviously there's always the main staple in their defense, Soyuncu. I probably wouldn't be dishing out the extra cash for Ricardo Pereira.
I'm not huge on Leicester defense.
Yeah, no.
I'm not huge on Leicester defense.
If Daka can start to get some regular starts, I think he's a good shout. I probably wouldn't want to go for a Leicester forward just because you never know who's going to start for them. You don't know if Iheanacho is going to start. You don't know if Daka is going to start over Vardy. While Vardy's out, Daka might be an interesting shout, but seems pretty risky to me. Leeds, I wouldn't go anywhere near. Rafinha, Ben, sell or hold?
I'm not touching a Leeds player, bro. Are you kidding me?
If you had him, sell or hold?
Oh, I'd sell. Okay. You can get better value at 6.5 million than Rafinha, and this Leeds team is not generating anything going forward.
I agree. All right, let's move on to Chelsea 4, Burnley 0. This was their first game of the week. It was the Kai Havertz and Reece James show.
Havertz is Sorry, go on.
It's
for a minute.
It's funny, right? It's funny, right? Because this was the game week to captain Kai Havertz over Mohamed Salah, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we go back to game week 8 where I did this. And did you do that too, or no?
Oh hell no, dude! I captained Salah. I
captained Kai Havertz when they played Norwich in game week 8. They scored 7 goals and he had 0 FPL returns. And now we're seeing the reverse variance of this in FPL as it happens. And Salah blanked this week. Kai Havertz got 2 goals in this game and a goal and an assist in the game against Norwich and finished on I think 24 points or something like that.
Something crazy.
So if you brought in Havertz this week, I think that's great. I actually think Havertz is a really good option for the rest of the season, genuinely. He's actually, I don't even know his price. He's probably somewhere around 8.5.
He's fairly expensive, but he is listed as a midfielder.
Yeah,
I believe.
He's listed as a midfielder.
And he's playing as the false 9 almost.
100% ousted Lukaku from this lineup. I don't know if we'll see Lukaku play for Chelsea again.
Know. I think he'll play specifically in cup games.
Kai Havertz is only 7.8 mil. He's under 8 million. I think that's an absolute bargain for Kai Havertz, genuinely.
Damn. That's a really good price point, to be fair.
And so I brought in Reece James this week as a part of a -4 and captained him. Worked out really, really well for me. He was my highest scorer of the game week. And then obviously got a knock towards the end of this Burnley game. He came off. He said in his post-game interview that he was fine. We later found out
he did post on social media later that he wasn't.
Yeah, that he wasn't. He'll be out he was out for the second game against Norwich. He'll be out against Newcastle. And then there's a possibility he returns for game week. They don't have a game in game week 30. Chelsea don't have a game in game week 30. And then there's an international break, and then there's game week 31. So it's possible and I guess somewhat likely that he returns for game week 31. Now, will he start game week 31 with his injury record this season? I don't know. I wouldn't say he is a absolute must sell. I mean, it also depends on your FPL strategy. Are you free hitting? Are you free hitting in game week 30? If you're free hitting in game week 30, maybe you just hold on to him. If you're not free hitting in game week 30, if you want some people with extra fixtures, I completely understand wanting to shift him to maybe an Arsenal defender or a Tottenham defender, or maybe even a Wolves defender, but probably Tottenham or Arsenal, just because we have a double game week this week and a game in game week 30. So,
I think Wolves have a game in game week 30 as well, actually.
Yeah, they do. I'm just saying Tottenham and Arsenal have one more game
double
than they
this
do.
Week.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Reece James is interesting. I feel bad for people who went for Rudiger and he got benched in the second game. That's really unlucky considering he almost never gets benched. I felt that pain with Max Kilman getting benched in Wolves' second game when they kept a clean sheet. At least you can hang your hat on the fact that Chelsea actually conceded to Norwich, so it wouldn't have been the end of the world.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Chelsea? What do you like for FPL assets? Because they do have a really good run in.
No, I like Havertz a lot. I know he was benched, but I still like Rudiger.
Yeah.
If I'm picking a defender while James is out, I'm picking Rudiger.
I agree.
That's kind of where I'm at, honestly.
I
think
agree.
If you want to take a punt on Chalobah, you can.
I think Thiago Silva's a good shout as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Well, I think as long as they're in Champions League, I wouldn't take Thiago Silva because he's going to be exclusively used for that.
Well, if you look at his minutes since he came back from injury,
I think
in the Premier League, he's played every game other than one.
That they go into, I think the deeper they go into Champions League, the less he'll be utilized in the Premier League as long as they're still consistently in top 4. And he'll be, because he's an older guy, he's 37, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's your dog. But yeah. So I don't know. I would leave it at Rudiger and Havertz while James is injured.
Yeah, I tend to probably agree with that. All right, let's move on from Chelsea. Burnley not looking great from an FPL perspective. If you have Weghorst, if you have
maybe a bench player,
maybe like a cheap defender, it's fine, but I wouldn't be buying Burnley anytime soon. All right, let's move on to Newcastle. We talked a bit about them earlier on. This was 2-1 at Newcastle. Finished. Brighton have been in a bad run of form recently, Ben. They've really dropped the ball.
It's unlike them. I was hyping them so much earlier this season, and then they not only regressed to the norm but fell way below it. It just feels like they just seem tired. Their players aren't.
It just feels like they have nothing to play for.
That's kind of where they're at, right? They don't feel like they're in a relegation battle, and to be fair, they're not. I mean, they could get sucked into one quickly if other teams start winning, but I don't feel like they will. And they're obviously so far outside of Europe, it's not a thing. They're just kind of content to stay in the Premier League.
They're on the Brighton beach, bro.
Yeah, no, they're chilling, right? So I'm not huge on Brighton. I know Sanchez is like the Ramsdale cheap goalkeeper debate. I'd lean Ramsdale, obviously. I wouldn't be picking up any Brighton assets. I wouldn't. I'd be selling the ones I have, and I wouldn't be picking any up. they have not shown enough to convince me that they are doing a ton right now. Like you said, like they just kind of seem content.
Yeah.
For Newcastle, Chris Wood's not a terrible shot in attack, but if I'm looking at Newcastle, their defense is what's been really impressive as of late. They don't concede many goals. They play a low block. They do it well. I'd be looking at the defenders like a Shar, like I know he's injured, but Trippier would have been a great shout. Or when he comes back, I think he'll be a great shout. Maybe a Joe Willock if you want. He's in my team and they have a double game week and he is their attacking midfielder. He's known to score goals and he's really streaky when he does. You have anything else to add on the Newcastle one there?
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like, and dude, the amount of time I spent debating between Joe Willock and Ryan Fraser will make you sick. Like, I was like, literally, I had Fraser in my team, I had Willock in my team, I had Fraser in my team, I had Willock in my team. I settled on Willock just because, like you said, when Willock scores, he tends to be streaky with it and score in bunches, multiple at once, and he had just came off the back of like scoring 2 goals the previous week. So I was like, okay, Joe's getting hot. I should probably bring him in. He also had the better XG out of the two. But if you look at the XGC, which is expected goal contribution, that's, you know, the combined expected assists and expected goals, Fraser was beating him there. Fraser came out of this game with a goal and assist and definitely boosting those numbers. Ryan Fraser at 5.3 million might be probably the best cheap midfielder asset that's not like dirt cheap, like a Gordon or a Ramsey. So he's you know, just above the 5 million mark. I really like him, especially if you're trying to fund a move for a Kane, a move for a Son, something like that in the future. I like Ryan Fraser long term, even for the rest of the season, even if you just want to let him rot on your bench. I think he's a good asset to have. Newcastle, I get what you're saying, that their defense has impressed, and it has. But I don't know if from an FPL perspective, if I would want to be bringing in a Newcastle defender. And that might just be a mental block for me. I just don't. I will say what you said. I think if Trippier was still in, he would be tempting. Shar maybe, but I just can't get past the fact that they're Newcastle at the end of the day.
That's fair enough.
Brighton, I have Maupay on my team still. They have a double game week this week in 29, so I obviously won't be selling. I'm hoping he can, you know, shithouse a goal or something like he does in one of these games, scoring like the 92nd minute. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be buying any Brighton assets. I definitely, you know, depending on who you have, I would be tempted to sell, even though they have a double game week.
That's what I said. I said if I had Brighton assets, I'd sell. I wouldn't buy, I would sell.
If you could sell your Brighton asset for a better double game week asset this week, I would probably be tempted. Like if I had a Trossard, for instance, I would probably be selling for like a Kulusevski for Spurs.
I'd do it. I'd 100% do it.
But me at the moment, I have Maupay, who's 6.5 million striker. There's no other strikers at that price point that have a double game week this week, so it's just not worth, you know, the sell. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, Brighton looked like they're on the beach and pretty uninterested overall. I wouldn't really want to be buying any of their assets. Moving on, Norwich lost at home to Brentford. This was a big game for them. They needed to pick up points in it, and Tony got a hat trick.
Ivan Toney's show.
2 of them being
Tony's penalties. Yeah, I still think Tony, specifically game week 30, he's a player that plays. Brentford have a game, so I don't think they play Leicester, who are not a great defense. So I have him in my team right now. I got him a little bit after this, but I think I rate him a lot as just a player. Outside of FPL as well, I rate him very highly as a player and what he's able to do on the pitch. Other than that, there's nothing on Brentford I like. There's nothing on Norwich I like at all. I don't care about the Pukki debate. There's nothing I like on Norwich at all.
There's always a little Timo Pukki scoring his one goal a game.
There's always his random 1 goal when they're down 5 at some point, right? Like I don't care. I'm not buying Norwich players. I agree.
Let's move on. There's nothing else to talk about. Tony, maybe. Pukki, no.
Tony, maybe. Pukki, no. Palace, Zaha scored a penalty this game. He actually scored a couple goals back-to-back weeks, but I think he's going to fall off again like he does.
Yeah.
Wolves kind of got blasted this game. I don't want to dive into. I want to kind of breeze through these games here. I don't want to dive into tactics, but Wolves got blasted. Wolves got cooked.
Dude, I
Arteta
want to
ruined
know.
them.
I really want to know what Edward did to deserve the benchings, because he was playing so
Yeah.
well, and then out of nowhere, Vieira just started starting Mateta over him consistently.
Yeah.
It just seems weird to me.
It does, but also like
I mean, I'm not going to question it because they're getting results.
I can't question Vieira because they got results and Mateta obviously scored, but I think it might just be a little bit of rotation, keep things fresh, keep teams guessing. Sorry, spammer's calling my phone. But it works.
Yeah.
And for Wolves this game, I don't think anyone, if you would have told me this game ended 2-0, it would have been like, oh, cool, Wolves got the win.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were obviously the favorites. The form that they were in was really good until they met Arsenal. I'm not saying that satirically. Like, they generally were in terrific form until they met Arsenal in 2 weeks.
Yep.
But they kind of got slapped around for a half this game.
Yeah.
Just absolutely dominated by Palace, which was unlikely. In terms of Palace assets, the Edward and Mateta debate
I wouldn't
makes
touch
it
a
difficult.
striker from Palace.
I wouldn't do it.
It's not worth the rotation risk.
If you're buying, is a bit of a price point thing. It's a bit of a price point thing for Zaha, isn't it? Because he's almost he's 6.97 mil.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Palace's fixtures right now aren't great, and there's so many other midfield options that you could go for that it's just not even worth. Like, Palace don't have a game week in 30, and they also don't have a game in game week 33. So it's just they're in a void at the moment. Also a sell if you have any.
Yeah. For Wolves, we've talked about Wolves defense. We love Wolves defense. Jimenez scored not in this one, but the second game, as well did Podence, who I have in my team. I rate Podence highly because when Hwang doesn't play,
actually, or is it?
Yeah, we can just go down. When Hwang doesn't play, Podence is the second striker.
Well, Hwang played with Podence.
He did play this game, but Podence was playing a little deeper. The reason he scored the goal is because Ben Foster lost his head for a minute. Passed the ball to Podence, who just said cheers, thank you very much, and tossed it into an empty net from distance. He still had a lot to do, but he did it well. So I think Podence could be a shout, and I love their defense. That's about it for me on Wolves.
All right, let me ask you this question. Because he did score in the second game. If you had Jimenez, would you be selling or would you be keeping?
I'd probably be selling because he's been too inconsistent over long periods of time to convince me that his price point is worth it right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I agree with you long term for sure. Obviously, you're probably not selling ahead of this week or next week. I wouldn't sell short term. He has Everton, and he does play in game week 30. So I would not right now. Yeah. But after that, I'd probably look to move on, yes. Absolutely.
I'm keeping all my Wolves assets for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even if you want to bring in a Wolves asset this week, you're not crazy. I think their defense is where to go, probably. I think Kilman is still on the table. I have Max Kilman. Did we already talk about this, or did we talk about it off?
Yeah, we did. I know we talked about it.
I think we talked about it off pod. I'm just going to say it again, just in case.
Go ahead, say it again.
Bruno Lage came out with, he was asked, why was Kilman benched in the game against Watford, and he said he's played pretty much every game for us this season. I think he was due a rest. Also, for those who don't know, his mother is Ukrainian and his father is Russian. So he is probably going through a lot, like, emotionally and everything that's going on in the world right now as well. So I think it was probably a good time for him to get a rest. But Lage did say that he would be coming back into the lineup, so I don't think there's any worries there. So I like him at 4.6 million. Obviously, Connor Cody 4.7 is great value. He will play every game, no matter what. And then you've got Sa in goal. I still like Ramsdale because he's a bit cheaper, but he's definitely an option. And then Ait Nori, I actually think is probably the most fun one to have, and he's the cheapest. The only issue with him is he may see a little bit of rotation every now and then. Hwang, if he continues to start at 5.4 million, especially considering how horrible the strikers have been, other than like basically Harry Kane, in FPL the last like 10 weeks, really the whole season, but the last like 10 weeks. I think he's an option if you want to invest some money in your midfield and defense for the run-in. But Watford are in a void. Obviously, we all have Foster as our backup keeper because why wouldn't you? He's the cheapest playing keeper. But I wouldn't touch any of them. They look absolutely terrible under Roy Hodgson, to be honest. They look even worse than they did earlier in the season because at least they were scoring goals earlier in the season. But yeah, let's move on from that. We'll go back up. Where were we?
We were down here. Liverpool, West Ham. I mean, do we need to? We all know the Liverpool assets.
Yeah,
we all know.
Yeah. We're gonna skip this. Liverpool have a double game week this week. I think
Salah, Trent, Robbo, Mane. You guys know.
Yeah, I think at this point Jota is probably an avoid just because of Firmino's back, and then also Diaz is seems to be almost is definitely fighting for that spot as well. So I think that the best triple up to have at the moment is Trent, Robbo, and Salah. If you have the money for Mane for whatever reason, go for it
instead of one of the defenders.
Okay. This was a good game for us. I struggle to say good game.
We don't need to dive through it. We didn't play great defense. Our offense looked terrific at times. Lacazette 2 assist is terrific. Yep. If you're picking Arsenal assets,
give me your ideal Arsenal triple up right now.
Saka, Ramsdale. I don't really want to say another attacker because Smith Rowe and Odegaard rotate. So not Odegaard, Smith Rowe and Martinelli all rotate. Lacazette for consistency, for price point, Ben White.
Okay. I think I agree with you. I think because of what I just said, so many strikers in FPL being terrible this year, I think the ideal 2 strikers, or I guess 3 strikers to have in FPL at the moment are Kane, Lacazette, and one of Broha or Hwang just for, finance reasons.
Yeah.
And if they need to sit the bench, they can. So I think my ideal Arsenal triple up at the moment is Ramsdale, Saka, and Lacazette. I think if you wanted to bring in one of the other midfielders, especially Martinelli, when he's so cheap at 5.3, he's actually the same price as Frazier now that I think about it. So those two are both really good options. I still like Martinelli. I think he'll start majority of games. I don't see Smith Rowe taking his spot from him, even though Smith Rowe's still our highest goal scorer. I think he'll just continue to come off the bench. He should be back. Obviously,
they might rotate with. He's fit again. Apparently, he's been in training. He said he's fit to go.
Yeah.
He might get some starts with the amount of games we have. We have 3 games in 6 days.
Yeah.
So
I think Saka is almost a must-have at this point in FPL.
I think he's the guy. He's the guy for Arsenal.
Yeah.
We have a ton of games right now. There's no doubt that he starts every game for us at all.
Okay, let's move on. City
we can breeze thugh this one too.
Slapped
Good
up
Lord.
United. Dude, this game made me mad. Can I talk about this game real quick?
Oh, I know why. Go ahead.
Yeah, game week 27. We didn't do a pod on this. I think I did have a pod on this for my free hit. I can't remember. Anyways, I brought in Kevin De Bruyne and Riyad Mahrez on my free hit. I had both of them in 27 against Everton, who just got slapped up 5-0 against Spurs, and they only won 1-0. City only won 1-0, and it was a Foden goal. And then go on to the next game week when I have neither of them in their team, and they both brace. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's unlucky. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time because we've been going through a ton of games here, but I'm not taking any Manchester United asset right now.
No, none.
I'm not.
Not a single one.
I'm not bringing them in.
Sancho.
I saw the ones I have.
Care.
Not even Sancho, not even Ronaldo, not even Bruno. Like, none of them.
Yeah.
Literally none
and
of them.
I think City assets are still super viable. It's just that they don't have a game in 30. Rotation. They might or may not have a game in game week 33. There's rotation, and they don't have any double game weeks, so people are kind of just like not really thinking about it.
They did progress in the Champions League as well, which doesn't make it easier in terms of rotation. It's going to make it worse.
I still think KDB is a good option. It's just I don't know where you're finding that money. And obviously Cancelo is a good option. I think a lot of people sold, which worked out this week, but he's okay to have long term stuff, especially hold.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the absolute capitulation of Everton. Spurs 5, Everton 0. Kane with 2 goals, Son with a goal. Reggie came on for an injured Sessegnon at half. So they both got an assist
goal
apiece.
By Keane. I think Keane actually opened the scoring with an own goal, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Doherty with 2 assists and Kulusevski with 2 assists. So if you had pretty much any Tottenham asset in this game.
Any main Spurs asset you were cooking. I think that the obvious ones for Spurs are those 4 right there: Kane, Son, Doherty, and Kulusevski. Other than that, I'm not looking much far past that for Spurs. And that's kind of where I'll leave it, honestly.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me ask you this question because it was one of the topics. Is Doherty getting overhyped, or do you think he's actually a good FPL asset at that price? He is only 4.7.
I think he's getting overhyped. Okay. I think Spurs can concede goals. I don't think he's a good player since he's joined Spurs. He hasn't impressed. I'm not buying it on the Doherty hype, and if it bites me, it bites me. But I'm not buying it on the hype.
Okay, I tend to agree with you. What I will say is Doherty has not started 3 consecutive games for Spurs once while being at Spurs. Now he started the last 2 in a row. They've kept 2 clean sheets. And he's got attacking returns in both. He ended with a 18-pointer in this game, and he got a 14-pointer in the other game as well. So I totally understand why he's getting hyped. And at that price of 4.7, which is not very expensive, people are like, screw it. I'm just gonna go for it.
I get it. And if you want to take a punt, like he might pay off like in spades, like he did this game. I just don't think it's a consistent thing at all.
Yeah. Okay.
At all.
Well, I think honestly, I think the most interesting assets for Spurs are Kane, Son, and Kulusevski. I think all 3 of them are viable. If you had to prioritize one of Kane or Son in your FPL team, which one would it be?
Right now it's Kane. It used to be Son, but right now it's Kane.
I agree. Yeah, I think a double up of Kane and Son, if you have money for both, is really good. Kane and Kulusevski is definitely an option. And now, honestly, everybody's hyping up Doherty, but with Sessegnon's injury, I'm actually more interested in Reguilon because I think Reguilon will start both games in the double game week and probably game week 30 as well. So that's my shout. If you have money to get Reguilon, I think he's a better option than Matt Doherty for at least the short-term future. And I think he'll outscore Doherty this next week in game week 29. All right, let's move on from them. Let's pretty much just wrap it up.
I mean, that's pretty much it, honestly. We did all this, and we talked about all these teams already.
Yep. Cool.
That's it. We'll call it there. Sweet.
All right. Well, we will...
Let's go to your team.
Yep.
Yeah, let's go to your team.
Yeah, let's go to my team. Why not? Okay, so finished on 109 minus 4, so it was really 105. It was really good game week. Very happy with that. I went up to overall rank of 25K now. I was at like 35 at the beginning of the game week, so that's a 10K rank jump in a week. I'll take it. I did bench boost this week. Now, if you look at my bench boost, you'll say that's a shitty bench boost, Chris, and I will say you're kind of right, but you're also not right because I cheated the system and I put Willock on my bench just because I knew I was bench boosting, when in reality, if this was a single game week, I would have put Willock in the starting 11 and taken Saka out because he only had a single game week. So, in reality, my bench boost really scored 16 points instead of this measly, 5-8 points that you see. So, it's not the best bench boost, but it's okay. It is what it is, and I'll take it. Kane and Son really helping me out. I don't think a lot of people have that double up, and I'm really hoping they continue to lose games but score a lot of goals is my ideal scenario.
Love that.
Saka, I think, is the best Arsenal asset to have. The Reece James captaincy was awesome. I was so back and forth on captaincy, Ben. I ended up captaining Reece James at 1 a.m. the morning before that. I had it on Salah and James. I was going back and forth. I even had it on Kane at one point, which wouldn't have been terrible.
Oh my god, it would have been terrible if it ended up on Kane, to be fair.
The James captaincy was really
1 a.m. and I can see you 1 a.m. just in your bed clicking the same buttons. Yeah. Literally just clicking the same button and over again.
That's
and just
me.
Switching. Oh my god, I'm gonna tell Brighton to take your phone away at night.
Dude, she's already asleep. You don't have to worry about it.
That's fair.
But yeah, I was very happy with this game week overall.
Yeah.
Looking at my team, how I line up for this week, I honestly essentially have like a free hit team for this week, which is awesome.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else will have this many doublers unless they're on free hit. I currently have 10 doublers. Reece James obviously hurt, so he's on the bench. He probably would have started for me, and I wouldn't have been even thinking about making a transfer this week. The only thought I do have, I could in theory, go Reece James to Doherty or Reece James to Reguilon, who I actually like better as a pick. And that would give me 11 doublers for this game week. It would put Broha on the bench, and it would give me an extra player because obviously Spurs play in game week 30. So honestly, that is on my mind.
I would do that.
I think
I would do that if I were you. I would do that if I were you in a heartbeat.
You would go James.
I would take out Reece James, and I would bench Broha, especially with like Southampton's form as of late and Spurs defense and Sessegnon's injury. I think there's too many good things pointing towards
that. Would you?
That.
Okay, if you were in my position, would you go Doherty or Reguilon?
Reguilon.
Okay.
Reguilon. So I don't rate Doherty as a player in the slightest.
Yeah. I do have the money to do that. I could easily do that.
And you have the money. James is a fair price point. Reguilon's cheaper than James.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, I'm not.
The only thing, so I'm already kind of planning my game week 30 transfer, and I want to bring in a Leicester midfielder, and I want to have the option between Maddison and Barnes. I don't know which one I'll choose yet, but I want to make sure I have enough money to choose one of them. So I'll need to see. Actually, I can just look real quick. If I take out James, I put in
Barnes. 5.2.
5.2. That leaves me with 1 mil.
1 million.
And then if I took out Willock, that would give me the exact amount of money for Maddison, who's the more expensive of the two.
So you can get Barnes.
So as long as there's no price rise of Maddison, which could easily happen, that would put me in a good spot.
Well, if there is, you can just grab Barnes instead as well.
There is. Yeah. So I do kind of like that.
I would do it.
So I'm thinking about it.
I'd get Reguilon. I mean, honestly, I know, like I said, you can do someone in your bed, right? I would bring in Reguilon for James.
Okay.
I wouldn't keep an injured James.
We'll see. I very well may do that tonight. But we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, really liking the team shape at the moment. I obviously do not have any free hits left. I'm actually completely out of chips for the season, so it's straight and narrow for the rest of the season, and I'll be planning accordingly. I currently have 7 players for game week 30. If I make a transfer this week, that'll give me 8, and then I could take a -4 next week if I wanted to, or even just play with 9 with my free transfer in game week 30. I think is plenty, to be honest. I think free hitters will have an advantage there, but not too much of an advantage on me that it'll really hurt. So yeah, I think I'm happy with the way that is. You want to bring up your team?
Yeah, let me share my screen.
Also,
here we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So here's mine. I finished on 90 points this week, which I did not bench boost or anything, so I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ramsdale, obviously we didn't get a clean sheet against Watford, but Trent, Robertson, Nori, who didn't play the first game, Wolves had a double game week and he didn't play, so if he did, that would have, they lost to Palace 2-0, so I guess it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
At least he didn't start, I know. Livermento, I started him over Cancelo because I thought they would concede to United, which they did, and he would have gotten 1 more point, but it's 1 point. Coutinho, in hindsight, maybe I should have captained him, but I captained Lacazette, who did get 2 assists. I'm biased as hell, and it slightly paid off because my other option, I would have captained Salah over Coutinho, to be quite honest with you. So that one worked. Podence is kind of my wild card in the really off. He got a goal because, like I mentioned, when Hwang doesn't play, he's basically a second striker. So we have that, and then we have the boys on the bench, which I started Ramsdale over Foster with a double game week. It got me 1 more point than Foster would have. I think Watford are terrible, so I stand by that.
Yeah.
And Willock, I have him as well because they're in good form, and he has a double game week. So going into this game week, I made my transfer. I brought in Tony over Broha with him being in form and going to play Burnley. And also, since they have a game in game week 30, he's going to stay, obviously. So it's more of a look-ahead transfer as well. Not nearly as many double game week players as you have, but I do have the Arsenal double up, the Liverpool triple up. Both of my Wolves boys,
you're going to captain Salah this week, right?
Oh, I swear to God I did that. I guess I didn't click save. Yeah, save your team. That's a good thing. Yeah, there you go. So Salah's my captain.
I did for podcast listeners. I did ask Ben because he still has his triple captain. I asked if he was going to triple captain Salah this week, and he refuses to because they play Arsenal.
He's playing Arsenal. Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that.
But you're going to captain him, so why not just triple captain?
No.
I don't understand your logic.
Like, whatever. Hell no, bro.
Whatever.
Hell no. I can't super root against the boys.
All right.
But yeah, so we have Everton facing Wolves. I'm not getting rid of Wolves boys right now because Everton's terrible and they have a game in game week 30.
Yep.
Going forward, I am debating taking a -4 right now and letting go of Bowen maybe and then bringing in like Regulon, honestly.
Regulon? You mean Kulusevski?
Or not Regulon. Yeah, Kulusevski. Why did I say Regulon? Kulusevski. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Regulon. We were just talking about him.
Yeah.
And bringing in Kulusevski and doing this and then just rocking with that and either benching Tony or benching someone else, honestly.
Yeah.
It'd probably be Tony that suffers, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's fine. He's really here for game week 30.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
This is what I'm thinking of in terms of doing a -4, but maybe I'll be in my bed at 1 a.m. deciding to make this transfer.
There you go.
Tonight. So that's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm at. I like where I'm at. I wish I had more double game week players, but it is what it is. I got a fair amount, and I like where I'm at basically. But yeah, good game week for me. I'm proud of a 90-pointer, honestly. Yeah. Like I said, 90 points, can't be mad.
Well, I mean, I know you didn't really consider it, but if you would have captained Coutinho, you would have been on a mega haul. You would have been on.
Oh, if I captained Coutinho over Lacazette,
add 23, subtract 8. That's what, plus 15 points.
15, yeah. So 15 would have been 105. Would have been the exact same you as you actually.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
So cool.
Way of the road at that one, but yeah, I would have actually now had the exact same as you.
All right, Ben. Well, it's been a minute since we did a player pick, my brother.
Yes.
While James came on the show, he did pick Firmino for Ben. We're just gonna wash that because Firmino didn't even play either of those games.
James. Thanks, James. Cheers.
It could have been great. It could have been
no.
It
could have been great, James. Could have been great if he fucking played. If he played.
To be
James.
fair, he did get a random hamstring injury right before it happened. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. What the hell did you do to his hamstring, James?
Yeah, I don't know. He was trying to sabotage.
I'm totally messing. By the way, I do. While I was gone, I meant to say this in the beginning, but I'll say it now. I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who stepped in for me. Whether that was James, Jake, everyone that stepped in, Willie, everyone that stepped in to be on the podcast. I want to give a massive thank you to you because obviously I was not working in the real world for a month. I was doing ridiculous hours and stuff. So I was so far removed from the real world, but I really appreciate everyone that came on and kept this going for everybody that watches it. It's a massive help. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Heck yeah. All right. Well,
that being said, James, what the hell?
Okay. Well, fair enough. You are the first pick, my friend. Because
we pull up the games for the week. We pull up all the games.
Yep. Let me pull it.
Figure we should do that just to show everyone as well.
Yep. Let's do it.
I mean, I guess I could do it, but I'll let you share the screen since you normally do it.
Okay, let's go to fixtures. Here are the games of the week. Obviously, the main teams that have a double game week this week are Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, and Brighton.
Yeah.
Who else? I feel like I'm missing one team. I'm missing one team? No, I think that's it.
No, those are the 4, right?
Oh, Everton. Yeah. Sorry. Everton and Newcastle.
Yeah, but we're not picking an Everton player, are we? Okay. I'm going to hate this, but it's my pick first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm picking Kane, and I hate it. I hope he does. I hope I lose. But I have to pick Kane. Okay. I hope I lose. I've never
Did I already pick Kane yet? I did. He got a 2-pointer for me when I picked him.
I didn't. I know I didn't because I don't want to. But I'm going to pick Kane, and I'm going to hate it, and I'm going to still root against them. Actually, I'm rooting for a draw between Spurs and United, to be completely honest. I hope they draw like 8-8 or something. I don't give a shit what they draw. I hope they draw. Okay. But I'm picking Kane for a double game week for the fixtures he has, for the form he's in. I'm going to pick Kane.
You know who I'm picking, Ben?
Lacazette. Great.
Close.
Great pick.
Saka. Let's go, baby.
I love it. I love that.
Let's go.
I love that you're picking Saka, the GOAT, bro. Literally, I think he might win Premier League Young Player this season.
He deserves it for sure. Honestly. There's nobody else other than maybe Conor Gallagher.
No, I want to give it to Gallagher because he's fallen off. But the thing is, like, the way Young Player of the Season works, I don't know if, like, Trent is still eligible because I know he's not – people don't think he was a youngster, but he is, I think, under 23.
Yeah. So
I don't know if, like, I think that he might win it again, honestly. But I really think Saka deserves it, honestly. So,
yeah.
Way of the road there. But that is our player picks. That's the questions. I know we answered them kind of.
We had one question.
Let me go back and find them, but I know we kind of answered them throughout. I just want to make sure. So we had the one, which double game week defense should we double up on, if any?
I would say Liverpool number one.
Or Spurs.
Then probably Spurs, then probably Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree. I think we kind of touched on that there. We didn't directly answer it. So thank you to Ryan for the question. Ryan, the GOAT, by the way.
Yep.
Um,
Jake asked about game week 33, but we're going to address that on a later pod. I don't have all the information to talk about that yet.
No, we're in game week 28 right now, so we got time.
29.
Oh yeah, we just finished 28. You're right. Sorry, we're starting 29 tomorrow.
Yeah. But yeah, that about wraps up the pod, Ben.
Yeah. So once again, guys, I'm thrilled to be back. Thank you for having me back. Thank you for sticking with us while I was away. Yeah, no, I'm very happy I'm back and like sleeping in a bed, my own bed again. Honestly, a hotel bed for a month is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I loved it. But really happy back. But thank you again, guys, for being with us and having you back. Once again, if you did like the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment. We will reply to your comments. We will reply to them either on the comment themselves or in the video. We'll bring it up if you have a question for us.
Yep.
If you do have a question for us, on Twitter at BorderlineFPL, the name of the channel, same Twitter handle. Tweet at us, reply to us, tweet us your teams, tweet us your player picks. Let us know if you're playing along at home. And once again, we're also on Instagram, same name, BorderlineFPL.
Yep.
I think that covers all the social media, unless you created something for us while I was gone. We got a
Not.
Snapchat.
We don't
now.
have a TikTok yet, Ben. So
we don't have a TikTok.
No.
You want to do dances and stuff.
It'd be hard because we're never together. Maybe next time we'll create a TikTok.
We like do like the 2-image thing where like I like throw it and then you like catch it or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude, oh my god, no.
I don't know. I think that would go crazy, low key.
Hey, we can try it on Instagram Reels, and then if it goes wild, we'll switch to TikTok.
I don't even have TikTok like personally.
Yeah, neither do I. So
I don't even have the app, bro. So like,
I just watch secondhand TikToks on Instagram.
Yeah, on Reels. Yeah, they're hilarious.
Exactly.
And like everyone's been laughing at this for weeks. So I'm like, oh my god, y'all didn't want to share this. This is great comedy. Like this is hilarious.
Classic.
Bro.
I feel like our parents who bring us like Facebook memes from like
Twitter
Facebook, like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I saw that like when I was in high school. And they're like, oh, this is so funny. And I'm like, it's not even relevant anymore.
All right. We're wrapping up the pod.
Anyways, yeah, we're done talking.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.